It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, welcome back. Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. I want to introduce you to a man by the name of Jim Hester. Jim is the author of a book called Two Tribes. I've got the Amazon link here pulled up. Two Tribes, Rebuilding Team America in a Post-Truth World. Jim, welcome to Conduit News Radio. How are you this morning?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me.
Now, is it, we were looking at the area code. You live over in the West Coast, right? So is it 5:30 where you are right now?
It is, yes.
Well, thank you for getting up so early for us. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
So tell us a little bit about your book. What's it about? Why did you write it?
Well, it's an examination of the partisanship in our country that's dividing and harming our nation. I have 4 children. I'm concerned about their future. There's always been partisanship in the United States, going back to the days of Jefferson and Hamilton, and there always will be, because people look at the world differently and people have different philosophies. But we have to remember we're on the same team, and the partisanship that has always existed has in recent years become tribalistic. And what I mean by that is that we tend to view the other tribe as being the enemy, and our own tribe, we're blind to our own flaws. But we have to remember we're on the same team. So I've used a football analogy in this book. I've looked at a lot of issues confronting America and tried to analyze it from the perspective of the team. You may not agree with all the viewpoints of your teammates, but nonetheless, for the sake of your own team and its success, you have to work together and try to solve common problems. So I wrote this book hoping to make a better world for my kids' future.
Well, and I certainly think most people out there would definitely agree with that sentiment. What would you say to those that say right now, though, we can't seem to agree on what the goals are? Do you think that's why we're not a team, because we have different goals?
Well, that's part of it, but we have to focus on what we do agree on, and we have to stop the name-calling and the insults and the belligerent and hostile attacks on each other. The fact that you may not agree with the person on the other side of the aisle doesn't mean they're your enemy. So let's treat each other with civility. I'm an attorney by trade, and I argue cases against my opponents, but I don't destroy them personally. I don't demonize them. And I think the same can be applied to our political leaders. There's no need to demonize everybody on the other side. So we have to figure out what we do agree on. There are things that the majority of Americans do agree on. Let's focus on that, and the other things will fall into place.
Well, so let me start by just saying, okay, I'm a talk radio host. I'm very conservative. I mean, I'm firmly implanted on the right. So let me just admit that right away. I'm sure you already knew that. But one of the things that I've noticed is, and yeah, this is a criticism of the left. I want to have, healthy debates. I want to have respectful debates with those who are on the other side. I'm not saying that I've never called someone a name. I know I have. And sometimes I felt bad about it. But it seems right now, when we have these debates with the other side, or when I have them, the left seems to be coming at the argument as if they are already a morally superior person to me, because they already know kind of what my views are on whatever the specific subject is. And it's really hard to have a free, open exchange ideas. I don't presume to think that about the left, that I am morally superior. I mean, I understand the issues that we're talking about are complicated and people have different views on them. So do you see that? Do you see that also in the way people are arguing with one another?
Well, yes, but the funny thing is that the folks on the left see the right in the same vein, in the same way. The people on the right see the left in the same way as well. And it's easy to just say the other side's at fault and my side is right and perfect and never wrong. And that's one of the things that bothers me, is that people don't seem to be able to criticize their own leaders nowadays. They don't seem to be able to take off their blinders. Everything their tribal leader says and does is right, and they won't speak up when they disagree. And so I have a quest to find the truth. And I don't care if my leader is the leader of my party or not. I will speak the truth. And that's the problem. Many people are just blinded by their hatred for the other side that they overlook the flaws in their own arguments. So part of the problem is to let's first remember that we're on the same team and try to work out solutions that will solve the problems we're facing. We have a $21 trillion debt that's going to grow in the coming years to $28 trillion in just a couple of years, and that's going to detrimentally affect my children and my grandchildren, and nobody's doing anything about it because they just fight with each other all the time and blame the other side.
Well, nobody cares about the debt anymore, Jim.
I know that.
They don't. I mean,
and they should.
Yeah, I mean, we used to talk about it all the time, but nobody cares. I mean, they think, well, we spent $21 trillion, nothing bad's happened, so we might as well spend 40.
Well, that's a very it's a very damaging.
I mean, I know, but I do think that. I mean, where are the consequences for doing this? I mean, I think they'll happen someday. But because they haven't happened, people just don't have any motivation to change the behavior in the spending. And so, I mean, I certainly agree with you there. I mean, we've been hearing about a coming complete economic collapse for a long time, and I know Republicans, they talked about it a lot. I talked about it a lot, but no one really talks about it now. I'll admit that.
Well, to me, it's a moral issue because it's affecting my children, my grandchildren, and it may not affect you. It may not affect me. Maybe we'll escape, but it will come to roost one day, and our children will pay the price.
Mm-hmm. Well, so let's talk about some of the solutions. Okay, you say we need to try to solve the problems we can solve. Well, okay, criminal justice reform. I mean, this is something that they're working on right now. It appears to be bipartisan. Not everybody on the right is happy about it, but it looks like it's going to pass right now. So, hey, that's a positive sign.
It is. Infrastructure is something they can work on together as well, and these are things that should have been addressed some time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are no magic solutions. There are no easy answers. I don't claim to have a magic wand that I can wave and fix all the problems in our country. But I've asked 5 questions in my book that I think are worthy of asking. And the first is, when a legislator issues a policy or makes a policy or makes a new law, we should ask ourselves, is it good for the majority of Americans? Not just for a few, but for a majority. Second, I ask, is it true? The reason why the subtitle of this book is called Rebuilding Team America in a Post-Truth World is that post-truth has seemed to come into vogue because people are basing their decisions and their thoughts on their feelings and not on objective truth. And so the key question is it true? A third question I ask is it good for our kids? Sometimes policies or decisions are good for me, but they're not good for my kids. For example, during the Iraq War, we issued a tax cut. That was good for me. I got money in my pocket. I was happy. But unfortunately, our children and grandchildren have to pay for the deficits that those tax cuts created. And fourth and fifth, I asked, would 2 key persons in history support these decisions? And I pointed to Abraham Lincoln and Jesus. Would Abraham Lincoln concur, and would Jesus approve? And whether you're a Christian or not, I believe that the teachings of Jesus are something we should all emulate. And so
those
in
are
the context of this,
go ahead, keep going. I'm sorry.
In the context of those 5 questions, I think we can address many of the issues in our country. I try to focus on the fact that we're on the same team. I try to focus on the fact that we're all Americans. I try to emphasize country over party. And yes, I know people have strong values, and strong beliefs, and strong differences of philosophy and opinions, but at the end of the day, destroying each other is not going to solve our problems. It's not going to help our children. And we need to stop the insults, stop the name calling, and solve our problems.
At what point, though? I mean, you say we need to do, I don't see that agreement. I guess, I know none of us have all the answers. I guess at what point is it acceptable for Americans to pick the lesser of 2 evils? And I've come to realize that seems to be what's going on. I mean, for example, if the other side, Jim, we're talking with author Jim Hester. He is the author of the book 2 Tribes. You can check it out on Amazon. If the other side wants to pursue policies that historically have resulted in the deaths of millions. So if the other side wants to pursue policies that essentially their end game is, hey, we think we should take all of private people's money, put it into one big pot, and divide it up equally, i.e. socialism or whatever you want to call it, can you understand why some people are going to go with whatever the alternative to that is, because they know that that's wrong? And I think that's why a lot of Americans, when they were given the choice between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, I think they went with Hillary Clinton. I'm sorry, that's why they went with Donald Trump instead of Hillary. I mean, do you understand that or disagree with me?
Well, I'm not advocating socialism by any means.
No, I didn't mean to attribute that to you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, I think when I asked earlier about the goals, what are our goals? We don't agree on what the goals are. If one side is wanting to drastically change society, and I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that.
Well, I'm not sure I totally agree with that. There are certainly segments of society that want to do that on both the left and the right. But the majority of people in the middle, I don't think, approve of that. And so I don't think a socialistic president will ever be elected because the majority of Americans will not support that. So there are some people on the left that advocate these things that will not get elected president because they don't have national support. And so let's try to focus on the 60% in the middle, or the issues we can agree on first. And I realize we won't solve all the problems. We won't come to agreement on all issues. But we can accomplish a number of things by focusing on the middle, focusing on the things we agree on, focusing on the common ground, and not letting the extremists on both the left and the right dominate the scene.
Okay. All right. I think that's actually really, really good. So, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if I had to pick an issue for the left to completely abandon, to quit focusing on the fringe, it would be the pronoun wars. I'm talking about completely dismissing this section of their party and not being worried about using proper pronouns, compelled speech. This what I think is like a new class Marxism, us against them mentality. And I will admit I'm in a conservative Republican bubble, so I don't know what we should get rid of on the right. Do you have a suggestion?
Well, I'm not focusing on what to get rid of. I'm focusing on what to focus on, focusing on what to emphasize. And there are issues that we can agree on. We need to agree that there's a need for health care in this country. Whether you agree on the details, that's another story, but there needs to be health care in this country that works. There needs to be a strong military. I'm a former military officer. I served my country proudly. I served with the Green Berets. I served in Europe.
Wow, thanks for your service.
And I believe that we have to have a strong military because there are enemies. It's a dangerous world. So we can agree on the fact we need a strong military. We can agree on the fact that we have a $21 trillion debt that needs to be solved.
Yeah.
We have a crumbling infrastructure system. So let's focus on these issues that we can agree on. And some of the other issues may never be solved. But the problem is, our current system, it just goes back and forth every 4 years. An administration comes in, tries to obliterate everything from the previous administration, and then when that party loses power, it just starts all over again and goes back the other way. So history has a cycle. It moves in cycles of 20 to 30 years, conservative, liberal, and lately it's been accelerating and going back and forth like so fast it makes your neck snap. So my emphasis is let's try to focus on long-term solutions instead of this crazy back and forth every 4 years.
Well, and I know there's certainly a give and take and hypocrisies on both sides because we're all human beings. I certainly know that. I was just kind of thinking that the reason when I said the word eliminate, I just mean, for example, I really don't think Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are that opposed to giving Trump the $5 billion. I really don't, but I know that their base, the $5 billion for the wall to build the walls in the sections that they think it would be effective. I just think it's their base though, that's so anti-Trump that doesn't really want to even begin to solve the problem. And so that's why I said, and that's the problem, is if you've got the bases of these parties that are involved, engaged, and, if you step out of line, you're going to be torn apart by your base, and so nobody then focuses on all the stuff that we can agree on. I'm articulating the problem. I know you have in your book as well.
That's exactly right. The base, the focus of the policy in this nation is based on the base. It's everything's driven up by the base of each party, and that, I think, is destructive. It's counterproductive. It's short-sightedness, and it's just going to create a back and forth environment that's never going to solve our problem.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know what's going to take to get it to change. But I really appreciate you, Jim Hester, for coming on the program. And I know that's what you're trying to address in your book. Again, Two Tribes, Rebuilding Team America in a Post-Truth World. And I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate the healthy debate, sir.
All right. Thanks so much.
All righty. Thank you, folks. Check it out. It's over at Amazon. We're going to take a break and be back in just a moment.